Today I'm going to talk about how name dropping does seem to help one get ahead at times. Why, you may ask? Well, it's simple. You'll learn rather quickly in this business that people will help you if there is something in it for them. We'll get into how some agents want to maximize their earnings, and by doing so, they won't always tell their clients of opportunities unless they themselves have a good payoff. How gatekeepers send back the ever-popular "thank you but you're worthless" letters for many of the resumes you sent out is just another part of the great facade. Why I picked up the art of name dropping, speaking frankly and directly, has caused grown men to storm out of my office, sometimes in tears. The importance of a paper trail, all of that coming up. Welcome to Hollywood Unapologetic. My name is Orlando Delbert. Today I want to talk about filmmaking essentials. Can name dropping be considered a form of art? It's all in who you know. Can name dropping be considered a form of art? Well, you're about to find out. I can't stand the act of name dropping, in all honesty. It turns my stomach. Am I supposed to jump up and down because you were in an acting class with George Clooney's stand-in's second cousin Marv from New Jersey? Whenever I hear someone dropping names, I envision some guy standing in an underwear ad in some catalog. He's holding a cup filled with pomposity and pointing out into space. Ah, the flavor means I'm a dick. Go smuggle some grapes there, tough guy. No matter how much I hate to admit it, name dropping does seem to help one get ahead at times. Well, why, you may ask? Well, you'll learn rather quickly in this business that people will help you if there's something in it for them. A large majority of this business is based on someone else's payoff. There are exceptions, but there aren't a lot of free rides. For instance, let's say you're a young filmmaker and wish to work with actor A. The agreement that may come together for actor A's involvement in your project means he would be paying several people down the road. Well, that's a given. The different representatives involved in the deal making will want to maximize their advantage and earnings in the transactions as well. The actor's agent may suggest that you use a different actor that the agent has a deal with in order to provide him with more income. It may also mean that you have to pay several of his people down the road, and this is not at all uncommon. Edwin worked at one of the major studios for a few years. He was considered a temp. That kept his pay rate down and left him without any health benefits. One of Edwin's assignments was working at one of the legal offices on the lot. During this time, he stumbled across an unsigned deal memo for a B-list celebrity. The deal memo was written in a way that his celebrity status would have been positioned to skyrocket, and he would have made a considerable amount of money. His agent, however, would have made a standard percentage, which was still sizable, but left no room for any side deal. At least not on paper. This gave the agent little incentive to sell that actor. It's confusing. In this case, the agent felt any side deals he could have influenced by bringing in someone else he managed or had connections with were already accounted for in the deal memo. Aside from asking his client to pay him another 5 or 6 figures to help push the deal through, it was in his best interest not to let the client know about this opportunity. The film was made with another actor, and both the film and the other actor were very successful. And to the best of my knowledge, the actor in question was never even presented with this opportunity. And how do I know all of this, you may ask? Well, one thing you will find out very quickly is that everyone knows one another in some way. Hollywood is very incestuous in its nature. Mutual friends of both the actor and the agent can verify the actor never mentioned any details of this deal, leading us to believe the actor himself knew nothing about it. This is hearsay, but I have heard many similar stories from other sources that confirm this does happen. A similar opportunity presented itself to the same actor a year and a half later. He made the film and his career benefited from its success. He has been considered an A-list celebrity since the film's release and has been in several major studio productions since. Yeah, I have my glasses on there for a minute. Anyway, back to name dropping. Oh, that's right. Whom you know is a huge factor of one's success here. Going through the standard avenues of communication to land a job won't work in most cases. I've been told several times over the years that the studios and networks post open positions publicly, even if the positions are actually filled or soon to be filled by someone already in the queue. As far as I know, this is neither a request from the unions nor a mandate by law. I do know, however, there have been many times since arriving in Los Angeles that I have received calls from production houses, agencies, and television studios up to a year and a half after they received my resume. They didn't want to offer me a job, they just wanted to know if I was working. This reminds me of a close friend's experience. Beth went through an interview at one of the local television stations in town for a production coordinator position. Beth had been working as a production manager and had years of experience. She already knew during the interview that she wasn't going to get the positions from the way the interviewer spoke to her. She received a postcard less than 36 hours later telling her that they found someone who had more experience for the position than she did. a move that is not uncommon in this business. Since Beth already had more than a decade of experience working in a television and film as a production manager and supervisor, as well as a production coordinator, she was more than qualified for the position, but felt she was never in the running since she didn't know anyone working there at the time. I had two similar experiences several years apart at the same station as well as other television stations and post-production houses. It's a wasteful process. Those gatekeepers I mentioned throughout this series of videos are the ones who will send back "thank you, but we don't want you" letters, or the ever popular "thank you, but you're worthless" letters from many of the resumes you've sent out. I mean, don't fret. Sleep peacefully knowing that those resumes often end up in the trash, unread. I've kept those rejection letters as motivation to push forward. I even considered wallpapering my crappy studio apartment with these things at one point. Would have been an improvement. After my third empty box was overflowing with these useless denial letters and postcards from thousands of attempts to get a break, I figured out it was just another part of the great facade. I didn't understand the process fully until I began working at the networks, studios, production, and post-production facilities where I was able to see the process firsthand and interact with those particular gatekeepers. That's when I picked up the art of name dropping. I began dropping the names of others inside the organizations where I was applying. And that took some due diligence and resourceful research. I was able to access online content and contact information directly on company websites and press releases, as well as through articles and trade magazines. But more importantly, speaking with people I knew personally and professionally showed the best return. I had a hard time believing that this effort received some responses. It may not have been many, but there were at least some response. And the funny thing I noticed was that although the person I was speaking with on the phone had no clue who I was, they often would refer me to someone else within the inner circle based solely on the possibility I might have known someone that they actually knew. This possible connection could be an expected payback somewhere down the line. And in the end, it was a good exercise in patience, but yielded very few prospects. However, few were better than none. One of my first paying jobs I held in Los Angeles was as a production assistant for a children's game show. Since my experience was with motion rides and animations prior to my arrival, they wanted someone who knew the graphic production process and workflow to help keep tabs on the contestant scores for the Chiron operator. It was a particularly hot summer, and I was fortunate enough to be an air-conditioned trailer for the duration of my tenure there, unlike the other productions assistants who were outside in the heat carrying heavy boxes and doing all of the other remedial jobs their positions held. The production was shot at one of the television studios in Hollywood. I became friends with one of the women working on a soap opera, which was shooting on a soundstage opposite from where we were shooting. Several weeks later, she invited me to a birthday party for one of her friends. I may have lost my dignity and blown up my back, but she had me come in 2 weeks later for an interview with the television network where she worked, and I was hired immediately. The odd thing I recall about this whole scenario was receiving several "thank you, but you're worthless" letters in the mail for the position I just filled. The last one came after being at the network for 8 months. Let's hear it for efficiency. If this all sounds like an undiscerning process, well, it is. You're getting the idea. It's the way the system is set up. You must keep in mind that these businesses are dealing with a constant barrage of unsolicited mail and phone calls, and they deal with them by the numbers. Many of those gatekeepers who answer the phones and are at the front desks of every production house and studio in town are great to look at. Please don't ask them any questions, questions that may require actual thought. You might be risk at being told their favorite color is Mercedes. I've heard this so many times, I honestly wish I made this one up. And of course, this isn't everyone, and it's not fair to insinuate that, but it has been a frequent experience. The first time I had a direct dialogue with one of these gatekeepers was during a phone call for an interview at one of the top advertising agencies in the world. It was a very prestigious organization with offices worldwide. When the young woman called me to come in for an interview that same day, she misplaced my name on the resume and kept repeating, This caused me to awkwardly repeat the same, back to her. I could hear her shuffling around with the single piece of paper she was holding in her hand. My resume had my name in 1-inch tall bold type running along the length of the page from top to bottom, and she still couldn't figure it out. What should have been a 40-minute drive at most turned into a 2.5-hour adventure thanks to be given the wrong directions to the office and the wrong information about parking. I arrived sweaty, tired, and angry, and let's just say it was more than obvious they were no longer interested in me. I believe this was based solely on my appearance when walking through the front door rather than on any conversation. But sometimes who you know can turn out to be a huge thing. I worked for a network several years ago, and I shared an office with the department head for the first few months while my suite was being built. We sat with our backs to one another a few feet away from one another. From the time she eventually showed up for work until the time she had to go to lunch, she would sit gossiping on the phone. I mean, nothing but jibber-jabber out of this woman's mouth, and it drove me nuts. I was trying to time out animations to the frame. I was listening to the never-ending bad-mouthing of her co-workers' dressing decisions and fashion faux pas. She was physically gorgeous, petite, fit, educated, and seemed to have everything going for her, but I was really turned off by her lack of professionalism. We began to clash when she requested things on unrealistic timelines. She would ask for something that would take a team of designers a month or two to produce, and she would expect it to be done solely by me in only an hour or two. I learned quickly from working with her not to use the word no, even though there was no possibility in hell that I could fulfill her expectations. Instead, I began using, well, let me see what I can do, but I can't promise you anything. I honestly believe I was the only person who had ever told her no. Being a New Yorker, I had no problem speaking frankly, but with many Angelenos, directness is as startling as a close-fisted punch of culture shock across their prettiest picture faces. I already had a problem with her from the get-go. When she hired me, she told me she wanted to push the boundaries of the existing brand and wanted to change the look of their current programming. She knew I already had won Emmy Awards and that I would love to go for that again. The potential for another award was the main reason I took the job. Much to my surprise, I found out while speaking to a friend at the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences that the network didn't fit the criteria for eligibility. She already knew that and lied to me during the interview. As a payback, I had my most recent Emmy Award sent from the Academy directly to our office, although it was delivered to the newsroom because it was a large package. The Academy called me to confirm a mailing address to send the award. I thought a nice, fuck you for lying to me, it would be for her to open the box in the newsroom in front of everyone and then realize it was mine. And it was glorious. I just stood there with a smile on my face, relishing the wave of emotion that could have been seen across the face. I'm not normally so evil, but there was other problems that had arisen between us. The main problem was that I would update her with emails several times a day and get no reply. This was important not only to let her know of relevant changes to delivery times, but the emails also included everything else that a department head should be told about, including questions that I had. I would receive an infrequent response, maybe once or twice a month. Almost every email I sent her brought up unresolved issues due to the lack of prompt response and what the current status was regarding those issues, which directly affected the new ones I was writing her about. It was a forever growing tower of inefficiency waiting to topple in on itself. Months went by and tensions heightened between us. The last straw for her was the night before Christmas Eve. A hard drive that housed a full graphics package for one of our television programs died. That graphics package was something I had been working on for months and was scheduled to replace the existing one. And I had been asking since day one for some kind of a data backup system, which they were not willing to acquire. I called her cell phone and sent her emails with no reply. Shortly after returning to work, she asked me to join her for a meeting in the conference room. When we arrived, she held the door open for me. I walked in, but she never did. I looked straight ahead and recognized someone from one of the other film studios whom I'd known from years before. He was now the head of human resources for our parent company, and he had come there to fire me. After we spent the first 30 minutes joking and catching up, he asked me to just tell him frankly what was going on there. And I told him about her coming in late and spending the first few hours on the phone gossiping before actually doing anything pertaining to work. I told him this happened every single day. I told him about her inability to communicate well and failure to make an attempt at being a good manager. Let's not forget the more than 200 emails I sent her in less than a year that she never responded to. If I hadn't known this guy, I would have been fired that day. Lesson here, boys and girls, don't burn any bridges and save a paper trail. I believe that to succeed in entertainment, you need to build a family-like environment established on trust and loyalty. Whether there are hundreds of artisans or only two, working together as a team for a common goal builds a bond. This is one of the milder of countless similar situations I've experienced. And so much of this industry is built on relationships one makes while they are in the trenches. Building solid relationships with the people you work with and do business with is a necessity. This may sound like something obvious, and it should be, but in actual practice it is easier said than done. By now you may have figured out that loyalty and the desire to play well with others is a rare and precious commodity. Selfish agendas are very costly in many ways and will eventually blow up. and many people are content with doing as little as possible just to skate by, and ultimately there will be some blowback. Let's recap. Do your research. Don't be afraid to name drop in the correct context. Dropping George Clooney's name for a mailroom job will not help you, unless you actually know him personally. Keep records of all your work and your communications. A paper trail is essential, and don't be afraid to stand up for yourself with materials to back you up. Never burn your bridges. The saying that the people you meet on the way up are the same people you meet on the way down is very true, and always remember, the desire to play well with others is a rare and precious commodity. The world is greatly influenced by what is seen on the screen and heard on the radio. Let's be the new Hollywood generation. Let's give the world something that will drive everyone to do something bigger and make a positive difference in this world. We are all in it together. Each and every one of you is an important part of our future. You're important to the lives of those who surround you. You're important to your communities. You're important to our industry. No matter what, remain optimistic and focused on your goal. Never stop believing in yourself. And always remember, you are the key to your own success. Take a breath, move forward. Together, let's create a revival, the resurgence of Hollywood, and bring back the auteur to cinema. Be an active part of the new Hollywood generation. You are a representative of the new Hollywood generation. And please subscribe to our channel and share. And don't forget to check out our videos in the series and follow the link below to check out our swag. Thanks. Join Hollywood Unapologetic in our quest to positively empower one another, to empower our industry in the true pursuit of our Hollywood dreams and in life. Hollywood Unapologetic is a continuation of the Pollyanna's Tear-Soaked Battlefields of Hollywood, a survival guide against the cynicism and the hypocritical series of books designed to help you better prepare for success. Together, we are the new Hollywood generation. Welcome to Hollywood Unapologetic.